Hello viewers, today is a big day in the world of Gran Turismo 7 because today marks the opening round of the official Manufacturers Cup season. Polyphony did a really good job with this race. This is going to be a 5-lap race around the infamous Nurburgring Nordschleife, and just for good measure they added in the very real threat of rain, just to keep us on our toes. This is now the official season, so if we do well here, we could possibly qualify for the World Series event. Not that I will. And quite importantly, the manufacturer I have chosen for this official season is AMG. And we hope to do the boys and girls back at the factory very proud. But let's give it our best shot by jumping in, definitely reading all of these terms. Look at this, guys. You could win a trophy worth $150. That is insane. So clearly there is a lot on the line here. There's a lot at stake. We have to get our qualifying session right. Now, someone messaged me, GOAT, and whilst I very much appreciate the sentiment, I don't necessarily agree. Because as you can see here, coming out of the first corner of the first lap of my first qualifying session, completely messed it up. Likewise for the final corner, having a little bit of a lead foot, getting on the power a bit too soon. This lap was very bad. Good enough for 14th out of 16. We can definitely do a lot better. Now let's take a look at the weather radar. This is the hour before the race, and here's me working it out. And here's me working out what that means. It will start, it won't. So yeah, I eventually decided to go onto the hard tyre, which was the available slick tyre for this race. Turned out to be the right call. As you can see, the track is dry. There is no moisture being reported, despite how grey and ominous the skies do look. Now, take a look forward. You'll see this Nissan GTR, who I do believe may have made the wrong decision because they're going very slow, clearly without much grip. So it looks like pretty much everyone made the right call to go on the slick tyre. That guy on the inters or the wets, and will not do well in this race. And we're fighting through from 14th here. This was my overtake 12th drag race between myself and the Mazda. Of course, being Manufacturers Cup, you need to try and beat all the other manufacturers, but also you want to try and place yourself as the highest within your manufacturer as well. And this moment helped because this Mercedes AMG went very wide at Arenberg, and so despite only being 11th, I was now the lead Mercedes in this race. Things were getting rather congested coming up the hill towards Mutt Curve on lap 1. The Nissan GTR clattering the curb on the inside, and then Barrier on the outside. We moved to 10th. By this point, 9th. A nice little switchback overtake. The old switcheroo being performed here. Lovely stuff into the hairpin, late on the brakes, almost into the Ford GT. It goes a bit wide, then has a bit of a moment on the exit, and so I'm able to go up into 7th. So 14th to 7th by the end of the Grand Prix section of lap 2 is not a bad return. As we finish the lap, you see the weather, well, there's nothing coming in. That rain on the top left is departing, and there seems to be no sign of any rain incoming, and so it'll be a dry race from here to the end. We come in at the end of lap 3, changing over to a fresh set of hard tyres, and at this point it's really a case of just trying to gain on this guy in front. 1.9 the gap to 6th place, the Lexus. And I know this track pretty well, but I wasn't quite able to really push. I didn't quite have the confidence in the car to really go 100%. And then we had this problem. The problem of lag. As we head through the first corner, lap number 5, everyone's zipping about all over the place, and I knew I just needed to survive. Don't do anything silly, despite all of the distractions. So we had a real threat of the race just being completely finished here with poor connection, but luckily it recovered somewhat as we head up the hill towards Style-Strecker here, just before the carousel. I was definitely catching the Lexus. But as we head onto the Dottinger for the final time, I wasn't quite close enough to get into the slipstream. As you can see here, not really within the range I was hoping it would be, but I needed to be quite a lot closer. to really gain that position. So in the end, it was to be a solid, I suppose, 6th position. And that granted me a solid total of 255 points. Race number 2. Let's hope we can get this one right and not have to go again. In qualifying, I had one very simple aim. Low 8 minutes or sub 8 would be great. Now, if you recall, in the first race I did an 8:04 with a couple of mistakes. So if you tidied those up, I knew that I could go at least close to an 8 minute. And as we come up to the finish line, I was hoping the lap time would begin with a 7. However, that was not going to be the case. It was going to be an 8 minutes flat 0.7, which was good enough in the end for 10th place. Oh god, it felt like a decent lap, but obviously not enough. Yeah, we need some rain here, guys. Everyone put the rain emoji in the chat. That will make it happen. That's how it works. It's fully dependent on emojis in the chat. And it must have done something, because as you can see on the radar, there is a fair amount of rain in the air. And it's that rain coming in from the bottom right-hand side, which is what I was most concerned about. That dark blue coming in at the bottom right now, I don't know, that could affect us. That could affect us later, but we're going to have to keep an eye on this radar, because I think the rain, it was coming in from the bottom right, wasn't it? So something will hit us at some point. But if it's that dark blue, then that's a problem. If it's the light blue, maybe not. For the time being, though, there was no rain, so we can begin the race and see what we can do for the opening couple of laps before potentially that rain does drop. For now, it wasn't really a problem. The track was completely dry, so let's head into turn 1 and try to get acquainted with this race. In race number 1, scoring a 6th place from 14th on the grid, giving me 255 points. Ideally, I'd like to get above 300 in this one. 300 for me is normally a good total. As we head through the Mercedes arena in the Mercedes AMG, the Bilstein livery, I was looking for a position here up against the Nissan GTR to see if I could kind of create an opening. Didn't quite happen. I did sense that this lobby in race number 2 was of a slightly higher caliber than the first one, and so I would actually probably have a harder time in this one, especially given that everyone has done the first race, and so we've kind of learned what to do and we're a bit more used to the circuit and our cars. So heading up towards the NGK chicane at the end of the Grand Prix section. Not really much to report of. Everyone kind of settling into their positions, as you kind of expect to with a rolling start and a long race, and obviously no one choosing the wrong tyre this time around. Heading into Sabine Schmidt's curve, getting into the apex nicely before we head downhill towards the hats and back section. Again, no real reportings of any positions changes, and so we're just trying to keep the pressure on this car in front, as you never quite know, especially with lots of cars very close in contention, there's a very real chance that one of them will create an opening or spin out. The spin nearly came from me on the exit there, just getting on the power. This is something that haunted me in the first race. Just the lack of rear grip really catching me out, so I had to be super careful. This car really felt a bit on the edge, especially in medium speed corners. You can see here through Flugplatz, the very fast double right-hander, the car actually felt really good. In high speed corners, the car was extremely manageable. It was through the mediums and the low speed corners, wasn't quite as good. Through Swedenkreuz, looking around the outside of the GTR, very difficult move to pull off. It is possible, but not easy. Especially if your name's Kevin Estra, you can pull that one off, but that is not my name, sadly. Heading down towards the slowest corner on the circuit. Still a very close-knit group up in front. It is beginning to fracture in front of that though, so the pack beginning to open up slightly. And here is the first real mistake of the race, of a fairly static race so far. 2 wheels onto the grass, over the curb. Very close call with the Mercedes and the Aston Martin before the car settles back into the wall. That's going to be our first position, up into 9th. It's a long race, so we really just have to stay in it, make sure we don't make too many mistakes and let other people do that for us. A little bit wide there on the exit of Bergwerk. I'm going to fast forward towards the end of the lap. This is Plantsgarten dropping down, and I felt like as soon as you get really close to the car in front like we are now, the front end grip really disappears. As you can see, they're struggling for front end grip as I get really close to the GTR. The Ferrari that was lingering behind sees an opportunity here. I'm going to cover the right hand side, go defensive. The Ferrari backs off and doesn't want to challenge on the outside of this corner here. And so at a crucial moment we've lost the toe from the Nissan GTR because we are approaching the very long straight. And actually the Ferrari loses a couple of positions here. He might have gained one but ends up losing two, almost three here. So it kind of shows you really got to move forward, otherwise you're probably going to move backwards. So onto the straight for the first time. Frustratingly 1.4 seconds or 1.3 away from the GTR in front. We're going to fast forward to Flugplatz lap 2. And at this point we can take a quick weather report. Let's take a look. So I mean, that cloud is moving, but it's very slow and it's quite hard to judge exactly where that's going to make landfall in, let's say, half an hour's time. Obviously it's a long race from here. We've still got at least half an hour of racing to do. So predicting exactly when that's going to land over the top of the circuit is not the easiest task. Now, in terms of my progress, in terms of positions and the gaps, I was just still kind of in this no man's land, not really able to catch up with the car in front. Instead, I was under more pressure from the Honda NSX behind, and I didn't really want to fight it too much and lose loads of time. So I just kind of gave him this side, which ends up being the inside from Muck Curve. And I thought, you know what, if this guy's quicker, maybe I could stick behind and we can both catch up together. Nothing wrong with that, especially in the longer race. Play the more long-term thinking tactical game. And so I was quite happy, or let's say not unhappy, to let this guy go. Now, there's about to be another mistake here. It seemed to be towards the tail end of the lap. Before we get to the long Dottinger straight, every lap I seem to make a mistake. This time around, it was into Galgenkopf. Over the curb, it really chews you up and spits you out. And I was wide all the way around the corner, getting a really poor run onto the straight. And again, that gap opens up, 0.6 the gap to the Honda. Luckily I had a big gap behind. You can see a couple of seconds there back to the Jaguar Matty in 11th place. But it's just a case of bad timing. Another mistake, especially now as the tyres begin to wear out as well, especially the fronts. Now curiously, at the end of lap 2, Max Power in the Porsche 911 decided to go in for an early pit stop. Assuming a dry race, the best strategy was to come in at the end of lap 3, to do 3 laps then 2 laps. Max Power going for the 2 then the 3. Almost losing control of the car there as we exit Atzenbach. That's like 4 or 5 times I've just very nearly lost it on power. Fortunately though, we're still in the race. I'm driving very much on the edge, at least what I feel is the edge. Let's take a look at the weather once again, and you can see it's clearly a lot closer. It still remains quite difficult to judge exactly when that's going to land upon the circuit. A bit later on in the lap, with a bit more zoom, you can see it is ominous, but it's moving so slowly. And this is when Polyphony really do a good job with this game, when the weather is genuinely unpredictable and you can't just watch someone else's race and go, ah, well, I know what to do now, because it does seem to be different each time. So you do have to judge it for yourself, and this is when this game is really fun. I mean, I've made many videos about this this type of race. So as you can see, end of lap 3, the front end tyres beginning to wear out quite considerably, and I was really noticing the lack of front end grip. And here, I mean, this was kind of a bit of lack of front end grip, but it was also a lack of concentration. Drifting very wide into the corner, just braking way too late, probably about 100 meters too late. You can see the distraught look upon my face. Yet another mistake at the tail end of the lap. I don't know what it was. I was just pushing way too hard, and I was kind of putting myself under unreasonable pressure to get very close before the straight. And this is where the race really takes a bit of a tangent. As you can see, pretty much everyone else in front going into the pit lane at the traditional end of lap 3. Now myself and Motor Insider, another Mercedes driver, decided with the rain possibly coming in very soon, let's just stay out and hopefully by the end of lap 4 we can come in for our one pit stop and change over to the inters. Now these guys are going to change from hard over to the another set of hards, which could be a wasted pit stop if the rain does come down. Now interestingly, this guy here put on the inters already. Now this is clearly one lap too early, as the rain has not hit yet. I mean, it could hit at the end of the lap. It could be an actual intelligent call, we shall see. But meanwhile, I'm 5 seconds behind Motor Insider, 5 seconds ahead of Chris in third, with fairly worn out tyres by this point. I can definitely notice the lack of grip. And the biggest difference and the biggest threat, I suppose, here would be that Chris behind had much fresher tyres. However, we do have the rain coming in. And you do have to make one pit stop, so I do have to come in no matter what at the end of this lap. But if that rain comes in at exactly the right moment, then I'm going to only have to make one pit stop. Everyone else would have made 2. And so this second place could be a genuine second place. And so it would have been a 200 IQ play. The opposite of a Ferrari strategy, essentially. So you can see there, Incognito, that's the guy on the intermediate tyre. And he was dropping. He was definitely losing time. However, it wasn't too bad. Let's take a look as we head up towards Mutt Curve. The gap behind is 2 seconds, so he's definitely gaining, but we're definitely now into the rain. Now, for those who aren't aware of the rain radar on Gran Turismo, the light blue colour you can often get away with on hard tyres. Take a look at Chris though on the radar, bottom right. He actually makes a huge mistake coming out of the carousel. I don't think that was anything to do with rain, because it isn't raining technically, or at least the moisture meter is not showing anything at this moment in time. But as we head towards the tail end of the lap, going through Brunchen towards Ice Curve, now you can see the moisture meter beginning to rise. So now the rain is coming in, at least with a quality or a quantity which will affect the amount of grip that we have. So this is where things get really interesting. So there is one guy who's on the inters at the moment, and he will be doing pretty well at this moment in time. As we head down the Stefan Beloff S, very scary section of the circuit, the grip is lowering every meter that we travel. So I have to be super careful here to not do anything stupid. You can see the rain coming down. I can hear it actually. And once that bar gets above the first line, then you're really kind of struggling on the hard tyre. That's kind of the range for intermediates. And we're just entering into that threshold now. And so for a couple of more corners until the end of the lap, we've got to be super careful. But it does look like we've made exactly the right call here to not go in at the end of the previous lap, just to wait it out one more lap. And it's coming in pretty much exactly the right time. I couldn't have timed this much better, really. You can see the clear amount of spray coming off of our cars now. The gaps behind are fairly sizable, fairly noticeable. And so this has been a masterstroke strategy so far. However, there is still more than a lap remaining. Things can still go wrong from here. Now, Christian behind, well, he's about to make a huge mistake. As you can see, he's on hard tyre, coming into the final sequence of corners at the end of the lap, called Tiergarten. I'm going to slow right down. You see the clear lack of grip, but take a look at the radar. Chris doesn't quite do the same. Takes his normal braking point, ends up in the wall. And that is going to create chaos for his race. But my goodness, guys, what a decision that was to leave it one more lap. Guys, come on, what a decision. Woo. Now let's take a look at what Chris did here, because he brakes way too late, carries far too much speed, there is not enough grip, smashes into the wall, gets himself damage on the front end of his car, and it's about to get a lot worse, because coming into the pit lane, well, he spins and smashes into the barrier on the inside, gets reset. By this point, he can't actually go into the pit lane because he's kind of gone past it. So he just has to drive forward. And this is the guy who was leading the race. So a pretty tragic set of events for this guy. And then heading into first corner on slick tyres, there's just no grip left now that it's fully raining. And so a really tragic downfall for this guy. Meanwhile, back in the pit lane, changing over, you can see everyone's coming back in to the pit lane. Motor Insider and myself, who stayed out, made the right decision. And it's going to be a close call here between myself and Incognito, who went on to the Inters one lap earlier. So he's into second, I'm into third, a legit third now. But take a look at the difference between the tyres. He's on very worn Inters now. He had to drive the majority of that lap with Inters on a dry circuit, which really doesn't help them out at all. So we've got a tyre advantage over second. We have a 9.2 second gap over max power and the chasing pack. And so things are looking pretty good at this point. We've made the right call. Definitely made the right decision. I mean, the guy in front made a good decision, I suppose, but still not the best one. Now coming into here, a lack of grip. We go over the grass, and this is almost the same as what happened in real life. Yeah, that part of the track definitely does not have much grip in reality. Same on the game. Take a look at the radar. The track is very much within the dark blue, and that is, yeah, I mean, that's intermediate territory. Sometimes that can go into wet weather or wet tyre range. Now, back with our friend Chris here. I mean, he's having a nightmare. Just no grip to report of. Grip has left the chat for this poor soul. He eventually ends up 16th and a long way off the pack, which, as I say, is completely tragic given that he was on pole position and was initially leading the race. But rain can come in to scupper the best of plans, and that's exactly what's happened. Now take a look at this. Max power is utilising max power. He has gained on us very quickly. He was 9.5 seconds behind, or 10 seconds behind at the start of the lap. And he's caught us up incredibly quickly. Now this is something we could talk about, because this is a weird bug, if you like, in the game, where cars behind have a significant advantage in terms of how dry the track is, which is somewhat true in real life, but not to the extent that it is in this game. So all the cars behind are really actually beginning to gain on us quite quickly, as they have a significant grip increase. It's just one of the weird things about Gran Turismo, so we have to be super careful here as we head through the sequence after the carousel. This is Tobias in 5th. You can see he is also reining in. Not just him, but 4 cars behind him as well. So by the end of this, we could have 8 cars battling for second as we all converge on Incognito there in 2nd place. So this is about to get super interesting as we go through Ice Curve looking for this gap. I just could not get past this guy. I wasn't really fully confident on the power to get behind him, and sometimes you feel quite comfortable following someone in these conditions as they can kind of make the mistake and make the judgment calls about the grip. So despite his lack of grip with his worn tyres, I wasn't really willing or able to push too much. Max power incredibly close behind. You can see on the radar, bottom right of the screen, looking for that move into Schwalbenschwanz. Doesn't quite get it done, but he does go very wide onto the grass. And we're going to take a quick look back here and look at this. I mean, there's the queue of cars, the horde of cars is on us now, so this is dangerous territory. I could very well finish 2nd, 3rd, but also 8th. So this could go very well, but also very badly. It could also go very mildly, and I could just finish in 3rd. So there's lots of options. Look us go through Galgenkopf in a line. This is it, guys, the final straight of the final lap. It's all come down to this after 41 minutes of racing. Into the slipstream we go. It's a drag race between the two of us. We're going to pull out into the slipstream, going for the honours of the top Mercedes in the race. No, we're not. The leader is in the Mercedes as well. There's a Mercedes 1, 2, 3, 4 at this moment. I'm going to move over to the left-hand side. There is the lead Mercedes. As we're tussling for position still, we get a nice bump draft at a very timely moment from the car behind Tobias there. We just have to judge one more braking zone to make sure we don't overcook it into here. Get on that curb, park it on the apex, and we do enough. There's a bit of carnage in the group behind, but we've done just enough to finish in a really satisfying second place after all of that. Come on, what a result, guys. What a race. Get in there, Lewis. I know it's P2. I didn't win, but what a race. And if you're curious as to what happened in the group behind, take a look at this. We have Tobias, Incognito going side by side. We have Max Power. We have about 6 cars in this group. Luckily, I was able to just stay clear out in front. But there's going to be a fair amount of pushing and shoving in the group. And this is why it was such a crucial moment to stay ahead and stay in front. Meanwhile, whilst we were finishing, our good friend Chris was many miles behind, having a traumatic time in 16th. 307 points. I will settle for that, I think. That puts me 6th place for Mercedes overall, and just within the top 100 for the region. So not a bad score, but if you want to qualify for those World Tour events, we're going to have to do a lot better. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.